or the sharing time. But right now the monster is alive and thriving.
But I love the name.
Ikigai. Station Ikigai.
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ Ikigai ਹੈ?
ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਕਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ?
When I was in school, coming back to this, when we were in school, कोई चीज ऐसी कि just this existence of the word design, we didn't know anything about it.
No.
And design as a profession to bilkul bhi nahi. How did you get into it?
So I was more like, I'm not good at this. Like, what am I going to do? So I used to zone out a lot. Like from the class, I'm like looking out. People are like, where are you lost? What are you doing? Or I'll be like scribbling at the back of the math book, drawing random like leaves and light and weird stuff. So, and I used to make all the charts in the school. Whatever charts.
Charts of
like some biology subject, and then I'll sit and color it. Like I used to enjoy coloring stuff, like just drawing, sketching and stuff. So then my Masi, she was like, I was just going to do English in St. Stephen's. Like I got through also in Delhi for college, and she's like, why don't you? So she took me to somebody who was doing design, and then he's like, oh, you can totally apply, like see what happens. So I was like, okay, and then he gave me a list of like 70 films to watch to prepare to apply for design school, and I had nothing to do, so I watched all of them. Like I went to all the embassies and I rented the films and I saw them and whatever. And I didn't know what design was still. But then in the entrance exam, like whatever, they test your logic. Triangle, circle. What is different? So you say circle. Random stuff. Like it was all very abstract.
Or koi aisa question? You remember?
If a safety pin is gone into another safety pin and another pin, which one will come out? And you can only see a picture.
The last one.
I mean, yeah, I don't know which one. So I was like, no, I'm really bad with logic because I failed in my math. So they were like, no, you're good at logic. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I just thought I was bad at sciences and math. But design uses all logic in a different way. So yeah,
from
drawing.
How was that?
Like, I think art is more, I want to draw a tree and I want to see this is the yellow and this is the green and I'm happy, okay, I made a drawing and then that's it. But design is like, what does the client need? So you have to say, this is what you think you need, but you also need this, and let me help you figure that out. So there's a little research
because
arriving at an answer together, something like that.
Okay. So in the sense, like, design is also a little career oriented and you are dealing with clients and everybody. So that's why you need to have all those intricacies of understanding your client and then structuring it out. Aisa kuch?
Yeah, like you don't lose the process. The process is integral. Like, you know how you make a song. It's a creative thing, but it's also finishing to a point where you think it's complete. So I think design is also a bit like, yes, we want this aesthetic quality from the design, but it also has to serve a functional purpose. So I think it's like a blend of industry and creativity. And money is involved. So if you're paying me, and you are paying me to get these many numbers in, these many people should look at it, or they should be able to come and buy this. So you want them excited. So there's a little bit of user experience. Like, how will they feel? You have to imagine them walking through that experience and reacting in the way that you'd like. So it's a bit of psychology, it's a bit of logic, bit of fun.
When did you learn the effect of color on the mentality of people? When did you learn the importance of colors?
I think it first starts from your own likes. Like, oh, I like these colors. This is what and most of us teenage people, even now, wearing blue and black. You're also wearing blue, black, and grey. Like,
almost.
Yeah. So this is like our own palettes of where we feel comfortable and relaxed. So a lot of brands like Facebook, LinkedIn, Behance, everything is blue. Because apparently blue is the favorite color. Everyone is easy to use blue. But when you use red, it has a more lively effect. when you have green, it has a more healing or inspiring. So there are things that we read into because what we're surrounded by. But at the same time, there are trends in terms of years. Like, what is the 80s palette? If this room was done in an 80s way, if this was done in a 60s way, if this is done in like a 2005, the colors would change because every generation also or every decade has a palette.
You're right.
You know?
Yeah.
Even filters, like how the photograph looks, you know which time it's from.
So basically, when I keep growing old, my acceptance of a color also changes.
Yeah, I think we become more open. When teenage years, everyone's like black, white. That's about it.
Then I'm still a teenager. I'm always wearing black. Yeah.
No, but you might have like sometimes a pop color that you might like in a jacket. And yeah, I think this also becomes, then you start collecting things that I find unique. Like I'll take a picture and I'll try to replicate a color palette because this is autumn. I can see the tree. There's a dark olive green leaf, but the background is kind of orangish and brown. But how does that translate well into a painting or into a design? It can look like khichdi also, but how do you clean up the colors so that they're subtle and they are still doing their work?
That's the trick. That is what you've learned.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm learning still.
Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, that is the process.
Yeah, like to translate nature with clarity into design. Because I think a lot.
Say that again.
Like I think a lot of inspiration or ideas, they already exist. Like we are part of nature, and structures, forms, color, softness. All these things are like a human-centered design. Is like everything is becoming softer. Like earlier Microsoft, that menu would be like so rigid.
Yeah.
Like these squares. And now UI is like soft, like touch. And it's the rounded edges of buttons. So like we always are trying to soften things and bring nature in a clean way without making it khichdi. So I think that's the attempt.
Give another example of how we are softening things up.
Like even the edges of phones.
Okay.
Right? Like Nokia, like, remember our first phones? It was like pretty industrial. Rigid. Like the idea of technology was like Tron-ish, like, or like, Nintendo, and how it's like now it's just slicker, softer, more intuitive, less disturbing. If you get a buzz, you can see it. It doesn't have to ring like a landline. Like, so slowly.
So what do you predict? What's after when it softens? What's the next step for this? Is it going to be projected?
I think they're coming closer to us, right?
It's just trying to be friends with that technology.
Like not have that digital boundary. Like right now, maybe 100 years ago, this wire setup would have been way bigger. And maybe in another, there are other obviously things that you just put a dot here.
Yeah, so it's getting minimized, basically.
Yeah. So I think it'll be like this. It'll be like, or maybe it'll be like, tang, tang, tang.
Why? Aise kuch, it'll be,
I think it'll be part of
user-friendly. But I kind of miss that design.
Yeah, we have a nostalgia for it.
Maybe,
But at the same time, like, it's not convenient now.
Yeah.
Like, we can listen to music. Like, and all the music is available in one device. We don't need to go and buy cassettes. There's a sadness about that, but there's also a comfort in it.
Yeah. I think if I say this, I'll relate to this topic. Like, you remember the car Esteem, Maruti Esteem? Back in the days, we used to find it so top notch.
Slick.
Yeah. But nowadays, it's like for us, for the same eyes, it's an old design now. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but Esteem doesn't have a nostalgic value. Maybe like an Ambassador does still.
Ambassador still looks cool.
Like you would still be like, oh, this is a moment, or a Fiat also.
Don't you think the Ambassador, Gypsy, and all these like Contessa, they should come back with the proper?
I think they might. I think if the guys manage to like upgrade it just to that level, so it drives not so heavy, it still has that like Mini Cooper, right? Like they have it.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
But it's also retains like a lightness from the future and the kind of nostalgia of the past. So that balance is there.
Yeah, but Mini Cooper is a foreign design.
Yeah.
I'm saying Like the
we'll
Indian.
we'll have to balance that.
But बड़ी impractical चीज है वो, ऐसा नहीं होगा.
क्यों?
कौन Contessa को दोबारा वो करेगा
नहीं,
यार?
मतलब I always see it like a tank almost. So if they can make it a little bit lighter, I don't know. This is just like, I'm not an automobile designer, so I can't say.
What's your observation on design of a car? Do you find mistakes, or do you find improvements?
Like, one is you know how the front mirror and the side, the window mirror, the thing that joins them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's very thick.
Yeah.
So you have a blind spot, which is really dangerous and annoying as hell.
I have friends who are complaining about that. Yeah.
Then.
So that could be changed.
My only. Yeah. I mean, I started to look for like cars. I mean, not like I'm like buying cars all the time, but yeah, that's a problem. Especially, I think, assuming a height of a person. Like, everyone's not 6 foot tall or 4 feet. So how do you balance that? And which city do you live in? What kind of size of a car is comfortable to park and move around in? Things like that.
Wow.
Noisy. Is it noisy?
आपसे बात करके ना मेरे को डिजाइन के बारे में और चीजें पता लग रही हैं कि it's equivalent to music. It's like an ocean. Too many things to count.
We always keep noticing. So in design school, they always told us to have bug lists. Okay, whatever annoys you in design, you should keep writing it. Only then you're a good designer because you solved something.
Yeah, so get rid of that bug, basically.
Yeah, so just have a bug list and just like, keep sorting it out. And I think that's also what user experience is, that if you're designing a website or you're designing an app or you're designing a store, these problems should not exist. And you keep noticing problems. So you become detail oriented. Like, so you can't go into full OCD zone as well.
So that's where where your learning stops you, you know? It's like, okay, this is perfect. Yeah. Now I'm overdoing things.
Yeah.
This is where I stop.
Yeah.
Is it difficult for you to stop yourself when you're creating something? Like, for me, it's very easy.
I think I know that little bit of poetry and imperfection adds to the beauty of it. Like, I don't want to clean it up out of personality. Like,
wow, well said.
Make it clinical, you know?
Well said. That's the true balance, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Like, somewhere you leave the character at least.
How's that helping you in your music, your band, Station Ikigai? Tell me something about your band.
So we have been taking a process which is like 2 years in Delhi. We would meet every Sunday, it's like midday, and I would have cooked something, and then we would hang out till the evening every Sunday for 2 years, like clockwork, because all of us had jobs. And then we would just jam. And from those jams, I think we got about 8 songs. And from those 8 songs, we recorded 1 song. Like, it's still in progress. I think we are obviously not 100% musicians, like not full time. So the timeline is a bit longer, but I think it gives to a lot of reflection on the bug list. Like, this is too long, or do I still relate to the song? Does it still hold? And I think that's the same thing with design and painting. That if you draw something or if you design a logo, is it timeless? Does it still affect you in some way? It will not affect you in the same way, but does it still do something emotionally? Yeah, so I think that
it's about creating something which is timeless, right?
Yeah.
Same goes for me.
Or trying, yeah.
How you listen to Pink Floyd. So I do just name one band right now. Listen to Pink Floyd, and how the music is still hitting you the same way as it hit you like 10 years back.
Yeah.
So that is what you're trying to say.
Timelessness, definitely. Like, even then they were experimental, like the heights of experiment. And like they launched their album Dark Side of the Moon in a planetarium. Like, it's crazy. Like, the ideas were new then and they're still new today. And the noise, like, they were like, oh, we want that analog noise.
Yeah.
And I went for Roger Waters' concert in Bombay, and I just saw the sound, like the whole sound thing was as big as this whole space. There was 2 people. They pressed something here and all the controls would move. And I was just so fascinated. I'm like, this amount of detail gone into the sound. Obviously, one is the creation of the music, but then how does it come across in the personality, the textures and stuff? So detail and the overview. I think you have to keep both in mind, right?
When you talk about that knob that you saw, was that on a mixer board?
Or like a master mixer, and then there were like thousands of other things. So something moved here, then those things. And I was like, I'm listening to concert, but I'm also like, what's going on? Like,
actually, not supposed to look there.
I know.
That's the technical side of it.
I know. I was sitting on top of a speaker
So you
for
were tripping
the beginning.
both ways, you know.
I was like, observe. Because I'm like that. I kind of space out from an experience and I need to have something to zone into. So it was nice. I had two experiences simultaneously.
So basically, you were striking a balance then and there of enjoying that vibe and also knowing the technical side of things.
You get a little picture of both those things.
आपका design, आपकी class भी चली हुई थी उस time पे.
हाँ, मेरी चल रही थी class.
Learning was
Yeah.
Achha, so basically 8 songs, then you filtered down to one song.
Yeah.
And you recorded where?
In Delhi.
Where? Which studio?
In Defense Colony. I forget the name. But it was really painful, the thing, because it was like there was a lot of cut. So I sent it to a friend. I'll tell you the name later.
No worries.
I forgot. And then I sent it to a friend who's a sound engineer in London, Jonathan. So he cleaned it up, which helped. Otherwise, it was like really like, we were like, what is
too much
this
character
recording? Because the first time we recorded something and the sound, like the voices, the instruments, the warmth of them, they were sounding very clangy. So he sorted the levels out. So that was our first, and we were like, oh my God, like first let's perfect this song and like open it up and like post it on, upload it to Spotify and things. And then we get to the next. Because I think to perfect 7 for an album, my God, I don't know how you guys do it. It'll take us like...
It takes eternity.
2-3 years. Yeah.
It does take that time.
Yeah.
You cannot run away from it. Like our album right now, unknowingly we made it into a living monster and now it's controlling us.
Yeah. It tends to happen.
2 months back, we were controlling it. Now when it's made and a human interaction and dynamic is involved, suddenly it's alive.
Yeah. So our monster is like on an island really far away, which we visit together very less. But it's there. It's living there.
Yeah.
And we know it will come into Spotify or the sharing time. But right now the monster is alive and thriving.
But I love the name.
Ikigai. Station Ikigai.
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ Ikigai ਹੈ?
ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਕਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ?
Once I saw this video where you guys were no, we'll come to that later, where what that place was. It was in Punjab. We'll come back to that point. Okay. My next question to you is, since you have I would say, decent know-how about music and psychology, what is the effect of music on somebody's psyche? A person who's listening to it.
So I enjoy all kinds of music. Like I enjoy hip hop. I enjoy the Punjabi dance. I enjoy this like Latino salsa, sentimental guitar, like completely classical music. And my attempt. So you think general people's music on psyche, on effects on the psyche, or
general
music?
General, and you can also you can start from yourself. Like,
so I think I seek the music that can match what I'm looking for, depending in the day. So in the morning, if I wake up, I need to have something quite abstract, maybe a piano, to just zone in, like slowly wake up and look at the day in a relaxed way. Then when I'm driving to work or I'm working, then I need some beats, which don't necessarily need to have much to do with lyrics, as long as it's just like more lo-fi or, sort of get into that workflow state. And then, of course, in CrossFit, as we know, now while we're lifting weights, you need something more strong, like hip hop, or like even Punjabi, AP Talon.
Or metal.
Or metal for you. For me, metal too strong. And maybe before sleeping, then more lyrics, more something reflective. So I think I tend to create more the night music. It's like post 8 p.m.
For me, something lyrical would not be post 8 because that'll require a lot of my brain. It'll be more of musical for me. That's the opposite for you.
Yeah. For musical, it's in the morning because my personality doesn't quite kick in, I think, till about noon. So I need abstraction.
और आवाम के बारे में आवाम, how does music affect the mentality of people or a listener?
I think
except for you, like
I think Awam, so I only know people I know, like my dad, for example.
I mean that only, yeah.
You know, like we would have our drives from Chandigarh to Amritsar all through my childhood, and we'd be like, oh, top 20, 1999, top 29, 2001. You know, the songs from the Hindi or the Punjabi, whatever's going around. And it's nice because I think it connects you to today. The radio does that today. And then it also connects you to your past or maybe even your parents' generation's past. Like historically, you get tied into society through music, right? Like you can see different eras. And then at another level, you can seek an emotion to be stabilized through music. Like if you're feeling a bit sad, even if you listen to sad music, you feel quite all right. If you're feeling calm and you listen to calming music, you feel more calm. So I think it establishes an emotion.
It amplifies your mood. How do you curate your playlists? Like, मेरे को तो 10 साल लग जाएंगे just to know कि okay, right now I'm in a lo-fi mood. I need to listen to this artist who creates lo-fi. Like, how do you?
So I think I have like 2-3 artists which I'm kind of studying or listening to, and then they go into this year's one. I have a yearly playlist, like songs that I've liked in the year which are new, and then there is like Americana or dance or hip hop or Punjabi, which is the nostalgia plus the new. So I think there's by category, by genre, I think. Yeah.
And what is, according to you, what is the position of the mental psyche of the person who's making that music? Did that make sense?
What is the psyche of the person who's making the music?
Yes.
Different musicians. I think you can see where they're at. You know, someone could be in a meditative, reflective thing on life. Somebody's like, oh, I've had a really hard fight and I want to enthuse people to fight harder for their lives. So it depends on what they've understood. Or maybe it's a phase, you know? Like a lot of people will change their music also. Like Rahman. He's always inspiring, but there's also like a gentleness to it. There's also a dance full on, or there's also like you can enjoy on a drive. So I think every artist will have like 2-3 shades at least of a mood, of a psyche. The high and the low, how do they each perceive it?
थोड़ा सा और elaborate करो इस चीज पे.
Like some people will do it through anger. Like a lot of Punjabi music is like, I'll show you. Wait and watch. Like the whole town's going to be singing about me. I think it's a little bit of that competitive sportsman kind of. I mean, sometimes they go mad also.
That's a good observation.
Yeah, but the other people sometimes, it's like a Japanese pianist could probably just from that sweet notes to the dark notes, just going between them in an abstract way. He's speaking about something similar, but it's a very different way of highlighting the aspects of the fight or the low. You know, like it could be quite aggressive or it could be quite soft.
Like when I started music, you could say I was solo. It was a lone journey. And then I met musicians who played on the record and slowly got into a band. What's your take on a psychology of a band as compared to that of a solo artist? Like for me, being in a band has actually made me a better person.
I think it's the deepest friendship one can have.
And it's also about understanding the other person more musically.
And equality.
You start from musically, and then you increase it to personal relationship.
And there's no ego.
Even if there is, it will get destroyed.
Will not, yeah.
Because there are for my band, like there are 3 people involved. And for one idea to be supreme, you need to have the correction of the other 2.
Yeah.
So what I believe is solo is complete freedom of expression without even thinking about anybody else. Whereas in a band, you learn to become a better human and also learn to adjust.
Yeah.
And that will automatically help in your life.
Definitely. I think it's like a very beautiful process of a solo artist is interested in this area. Like, let's say, these instruments, this vibe, these kind of lyrics, this is your color of your personality. This is another person, this is another person. And then together, it's almost like a inquiry that you're taking a journey into together. So it's not like, oh, I think it should be like this, and this one. I think so. For us, it's almost like we're all sitting here, and you'll only put in the bucket something when you know that, oh, I think this will fit. So there's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of reflecting and getting to know each other. And there's a lot of hesitancy. And I'll be like, Dia, please, remember that note you played? That's the one. And she's like, oh, really? Okay, let me try. And then she'll play it on the violin. And she's like, okay. So it's almost like you're kind of pulling from each other also the best thing. So sometimes I can't see what. I'm like, oh, I just wrote this thing. I don't know. And they're like, oh, these 2 lines. Let's try. I'm like, okay, really? So it's a lot of like.
So you get that validation also.
Yeah, like mostly artists will be in a bit of like a self-doubt or.
Always.
So we, our friends, they pull us out and they know quality because together we're trying to find that good quality. So it's nice. I think helps with understanding each other and helping make something higher quality, more complete.
That's great, don't you think?
It's really fun.
Well, I'm a better person today.
Yeah, for sure.
If my band mein na hota, so less better person.
And there are some things you can only say while making music, like.
And it's the opposite also, like how you said, like if, for example, there is a bad idea, my friends would tell me that's a bad idea, and then I'll be like, okay, maybe these two are right, because
you might be attached to it today, but by the evening or tomorrow you'll be like,
after the hangover,
they were right.
yeah, we call it the hangover.
The hangover
of that particular part.
Yeah, you get into it and then you're like, okay, we have to get objective about it.
And same happens with the song. For example, if you made it today, the next day and the day after is going to be the hangover day where you feel the song's the best. And when that dies, then you actually realize on the 4th day, 3rd day, that is it still making sense? And if it's still making sense, then
it
that's
holds.
a go forward.
Yeah, that's like the creative stage and then the editing stage. So you are the creator, but you're also the editor.
Yeah.
So you have to have distance, and then you can look at it in different ways and have other things to compare it to, which you've created before. I think it's the same with paintings and designs. Like you think, oh my God, what typography, what a painting. And then after 2 days, you're like, oh, it needs so much work. Okay, let me fix it.
कर दिया fix. उसके बाद
फिर ऐसे देखो. And फिर कहीं पे you're like, अब छोड़ दो क्योंकि अब इससे ज़्यादा गंद पड़ने वाला है.
और फिर then you're happy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, nice creation.
Yeah.
Thank you. What do you feel? Do you feel that you're making that thing?
No. It's
What's
like you've been asked. It has to be coming through you.
Asked by the client?
Asked by something in the spirit world, know, like the universe or like your inspiration. It comes to you.
Yeah.
And your duty is to completely put it out as soon as possible because then it will run out.
It's like a relay race.
There's a timeline. Yeah. It's a relay race. You catch it and you put it in. And you give it your 100% and then you look at it and you're like, tomorrow I'll tweak it. But that first thing is mostly like 80% of it is done. At least the vision is established.
Okay. So basically you're catching the signal.
Yeah. You're catching it and you're like...
जैसे मेरे कुछ दोस्त हैं वो कहते हैं कि मैंने बनाया है. अरे पगले.
Yeah.
कैसे कह सकता है कि तू मैंने बनाया है? तो फिर उनके साथ आर्ग्यूमेंट नहीं हो पाती मेरी इस चीज पे. Then I let them be.
अगर मैंने बनाया तो फिर मैं अकेला ही बैठ के एक कमरे में जहाँ पे कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, I should be able to create. There's no inspiration needed then.
क्या बात है?
No. You have to move through the world. You have to meet people. You have to see the scenes and then you get inspired. So it's not coming from you. You're taking it from the outside. You're the processor.
हाँ, मैंने बनाया, कमरे में बैठ के बना लो भाई.
हाँ, फिर सारी दीवारें सफेद हैं, सारी खिड़कियां बंद हैं, तो बैठो यहाँ पे 3 साल बैठ के कितना काम बनाओगे?
देखते हैं.
हाँ, that's it.
Interesting. What's your take on Punjabi culture? Like your family has strong roots and association with the Punjabi culture. We'll come to that place now.
Preet Nagar Residency.
I tried to read about it on the net. I couldn't draw a picture. Let's start from the Punjabi culture, then steering into the Preet Nagar Residency.
Okay. Okay. So my understanding of Punjabi culture started with me being born in a village in Punjab, which is outside Amritsar.
Oh, so exotic.
And we are like cows and dogs, and we just like literally come back home only to eat as children. 10 years, like just in the village, running around, wild.
So you played with mud, unlike
Mud
today's
and
kids.
like, yeah, favorite game was to like kneel down in a field and make a maze and destroy the crop. We got belted also. Because once we did it to a rice field, which is expensive. Normally, you would do it to like the cattle, really. Ghas, to uski to, they can still cut it and the cows will eat it. I think we are very, like, our Punjabi cultures have many layers. So the good part is what I'll talk about. I think there's a lot of equality, I find, at least, in men and women. There's a sense of open dialogue, frankness. So it's a system which is not hierarchical, and everyone is kind of like more friend. Like my parents or even the elders. It's not like, oh, he's like 85 years old, so everything he says is true. You can question it. So I think it always was designed to be open. Even the gurdwaras, like having 4 doors, and every religion can walk in. And I mean, they try to not have the class and caste system, but I don't think that's quite true yet. But I think we are also very warm people. We like to celebrate. We like to hug. We are like very emotional, which works both ways. Sometimes gets too emotional. There's a lot of alcoholism in Punjabi culture, which is a problem. But I find it a very friendly and honest when done right.
I agree. I agree. Wow. Where was this? Where were you born?
In Preet Nagar. So it's like 40 minutes from Amritsar towards the border. And
it's towards the border.
Yeah, it's like from at night you can see the lights of Lahore from my village, like a little red thing in the sky. So my great grandfather, he was Gurbaksh Singh, and he started an experiment where he went to Michigan and he studied engineering, and he came back and he's working with British Railways, and he's like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not a scene. So he's like, I want to start a magazine in which we look at new ideas of society, like how is the new India going to look like. So he started an international school with like co-educational. There's one of the first co-ed schools in the 30s, 1930s. And a lot of Punjabi people from across the world were sending their children to study there. And a lot of writers bought houses that he designed, that they were like 24 houses. And Balraj Sani. And so
no worries.
Faiz Ahmed Faiz, he came. They were really good friends. So he used to come there often. And a lot of writers. The thing was that it was between Lahore and Amritsar. So it was in the center. And he wanted it to be like a cultural hub of like non-colonialized India. Like, what does it look like, So there's a lot of like discussions and festivals. And the magazine has been running since then. My parents still run it. And one of the buildings we've converted into an artist residency now, just to bring that energy back. Yeah, because there was the war and then there were the 84, the riots and so on. So trying to bring more life into what does it look like art, culture, literature in a setting which still is there, but like most of us are living in cities. But it's nice to revisit and work with the community musically. We talk a lot about the partition. We talk a lot about the current challenges in the environment as well. So looking at art and literature and what's happening right now.
So the current generation has taken that role very seriously, like in your family.
Yeah, so we are working on it.
थोड़े से loopholes आए बीच में, but the thing's still on.
Yeah. Like with COVID, obviously, we didn't want people to come with COVID and infect the whole village. So we were like, let's hold it.
Any activities just recently post-COVID? Did you anything happen?
I mean, it was very interesting. During COVID, there was a musician trust from South India who asked me to find all the local musicians in Preetnagar. And then they were sending all the local musicians, like I think like a bursary of 4,000 rupees each. And together they are trying to create a database of folk musicians of India. So that was a exercise we were participating in during COVID. And now I think we are just sort of opening up again and people can start applying if they want to come visit and work on their projects.
What's the name again?
Preet Nagar Residency. Check it out on the website, Instagram.
ये बड़ा अच्छा नाम है. But I forgot to tell you, you were supposed to get your painting also. Remember?
Yeah.
Where you could see that red light in the landscape.
That's true. We can probably show the painting and then.
Yeah, but I also want to talk about it. Nah. I'll have to imagine abhi.
I can show it on my phone too.
दिखाओ कहाँ है phone?
It's there.
फिर छोड़ो कोई बात नहीं. इसका part 2 भी कर सकते हैं हम.
ठीक है.
ऐसा कोई सीन नहीं है.
ठीक है.
तो like Punjabi music, it's crossed all boundaries. दिलजीत दोसांझ की फोटो पता नहीं कहाँ लगी हुई है टाइम स्क्वायर पे. मतलब these guys have made it. Internationally, it is catchy and whatnot. Do you think that Punjabi music of today has done justice to the folk roots, that folklore roots? Because that's the origination of Punjabi music. Do you think the justice has been done with that?
I think it's being done, definitely. Like Malkeet Singh, I think, had a good grasp of folk and how to move it out. And then we have like Vali Saghu, who kind of brought in a little bit of that movement and beats and stuff, right? And now we have, I'm going for AP Dillon concert next week. So, it's interesting. There are like these threads. Like one is like this Jat, angry and guns and booze and I'm such a macho. But there's also a softness. There's also a nostalgia. There's also a bit of the diaspora culture. Like we are hardworking people and we will work with honor and integrity. So I think folk culture is also in evolution. And all these musicians, they are also creating it as they go along. And they are trying to do justice. But I think everything is in fluid motion. Like you can't be like,
True.
Leaving it. Okay, that is folk and therefore we are not gatekeepers. Like nobody should be. Like, it's like evolving.
Yeah. But like the lyrics are completely Punjabi, but the music is another ball game.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think that's the beauty of diaspora mixing with like the larger, the sound of like the British sound or the hip hop sound.
That's that's the idea of getting influenced globally, basically.
Yeah. So it filters in and it charges the folk and the personal, and together it creates a unique identity. Then also we are able to sit between those two spaces, because I think all of us do that. Like we are Indian, we are Punjabi, we are folk, and at the same time right now we are international as well. So then where is that identity mixing? So I think it's a very good time for, and it has been even all the 90s Punjabi music that we've danced to through school. That is, the mixing of the old and whatever's happening globally or in a city, the sound of a city or the sound of a decade comes in. So it's an exciting time.
When you said Bali Saghu, you missed a few names.
Yeah.
Even I'm going to miss a few names, but DJ APS, have you heard DJ APS?
No, I don't think so. I remember Stereo Nation.
Stereo Nation, DJ APS, then Punjabi MC.
Punjabi MC, obviously. Yeah.
And nowadays there's this person, the name of Young Singh. Have you heard his music?
I've heard two. I think one. But I remember it only from I can't say it. I have heard, but it doesn't come.
Yeah, so he's like in his 20s, early 20s, and people call him the revivalist of the 90s and 2000s Punjabi music.
Oh, wasn't it the Boiler Room set? Yeah, for sure.
Apologies for the names that I don't remember who played that night. Yeah. Those people were also really amazing.
Good. Yeah.
But the whole community,
Yeah.
So
energy, great energy.
Revive ho raha hai.
Yeah,
revive ho raha hai. I'm a huge fan of the 90s Punjabi music.
Same.
Like Bali Saghu, Punjabi MC.
Same.
Like, even today, doing that is a little difficult.
Yeah.
Making that music is, you need to be exposed to that garage, UK garage, Punjabi meets.
It has to be quite tight, doesn't it? So you might come
That's a great word, yeah.
You might come from that influence, but you can't space out So it has to be very tight, like the beat, the heart, and the tech together, aligning
that's
that.
the trick.
Yeah,
that's the trick.
It's mastery.
Basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Like post the crisis, traveling is in everybody's list. When I say travel, you could also consider my 2-day travel tomorrow.
Yeah.
So everybody is giving a lot of importance to traveling. What does travel mean to you? What place you would say that you have truly traveled and why?
Travel to me is the best way to grow like your brain. In a day, you can grow it. Maybe it won't grow in 6 months.
Well said.
As much as in a day you can learn. But you have to be alone.
Well said.
I think travel has to, for me, it has to be alone. The moment you're with another person or with a group, like then you're traveling in your comfort pillow, in your cloud. You know, ye kha liya, wahan pe baith gaye. But alone, it's the, real experience. So I think for me...
That's great, huh?
A few things, like I studied in Kodaikanal in Tamil Nadu, in like a Tamil village, suddenly from Chandigarh and Sanar and whatever, like suddenly we're there, everyone's speaking Tamil. So I pick up Tamil, 2 mountains, there's a river. It's like elephants are walking around. You're like, what's going on? It's another reality. And then the same thing, I went to study in Florence. It is Italian. I learned Italian. I can see these buildings. I'm like, what is going on? Like the Renaissance, the architecture, the paintings, the sculptures. It's like another bubble world. Tokyo, I've been working a lot there. Tokyo, again, is made up of French and German influences after the city got bombed. So there's a lot of like...
Say that again?
Beautiful.
I just got zoned out. Yeah.
Tokyo, they were destroyed in the war. So they sent their engineers, civil engineers, to the best cities to emulate. So Paris and Germany, France and Germany, the system of a city was studied, and even the Nordic countries. So you see
so they sent Japanese to go abroad and study.
And we are to design the city again. Let's do it well.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So you see this, obviously the traditional Japanese, you see the neon futuristic Japanese, you see the individualistic, everyone's on a trip, and then you see this French bakery nostalgia. It's like so many things are mixing. So for me, I think it's very exciting to all, I've been to Tokyo, I think like 6-7 times for work, but whatever they pay me, I'm just like, I just spend it by spending more days there, because I'm just like, there's nowhere else I'd rather, there's nothing better I can do with this fee that you pay me, because I just like, I get so much inspiration. So travel does that, is that you come back from this bubble or wherever you've been, and then you can channel it back to your work and to yourself. And I think it's the best way to see who you are, because you are new there for that much time.
Yeah. It's like exploring yourself in a new environment. And then getting it back and then using that idea or whatever, that experience in your...
Because you would have changed something, would have made you uncomfortable, and you've changed a bit. So that's the exciting bit as well.
So you've changed a bit permanently, you're trying to say.
Yeah, you've been edited.
यार important है यार, मैं कम घूमता हूँ इसका मतलब.
नहीं, बहुत मजा आता है. Like I noticed in Tokyo, like everyone is so gentle.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry to send you this email. I'm like, what? Like I've never email. This the politeness is, And then like there was this old lady. I was carrying my suitcase, but this old lady saw me carrying a suitcase. She's like, let me help you. In a railway station. She's like 70. I was like, no. She's like, no. I was like, okay, fine. Like you help me. So now when I think it makes like Tokyo for me is like everyone's like, let me help you first. Like all the Japanese are very much like, I don't want to be an inconvenience to you. So it's changed a lot, even the working culture, how to be more listening than speaking. So I think every culture, every country, every city or a language has rules that you don't know. So then you absorb them in some way.
Yeah, and then take the best of everything. When you said French bakery in Japan, you're trying to say that it's an influence from outside, obviously.
I think they kind of look up to French aesthetics a lot. Like so
basically, post whatever happened in the 40s, they sent the people outside. And I think France was the main attraction for them.
Yeah.
Did that happen? Or was it all over the world?
I think Germany for efficiency and French for like how to move from the nostalgia of traditional study and how do you bring it to today. So I think the French know that, you know. So I think they were trying to pick the best as a research. So they've emulated it in the city and you can see it, the threads of inspiration. Yeah.
I've never been to Japan.
It's a lot of fun.
Everybody like our close family, friends or whatever, everybody wants to go to Europe. No one wants to go to Africa. For that matter, Central Asia, Russia, Japan.
We are colonized now, so we are like no, but it's crazy. Like I've been working with the think tank in Tokyo, and they only work with Asian designers. So there's 3 of us from India. There's like 3 from Korea, like that, Singapore, and so on. And it's so interesting because most people would have obviously been educated in UK or Europe or even in Asia. But you see the evolution of design within Asia very specifically. And the cities are slick, man. They're like completely futuristic. Even Abu Dhabi, you know, I mean, Abu Dhabi is not Asia, but I'm just saying there's a lot of future even within these areas that needs to be looked at. And not only, I mean, I'm interested in what the future looks like, which is not destroying the soul, or which is not industrial. Like, how do you balance
Sustainable.
it? Sustainable, slow. You know, it's interesting. It's fun.
What's your connection between nature and spirituality?
I think for me, I think through the lockdown, it became very evident. Like we were all indoors. कमरे में और बाहर निकल नहीं सकते हैं. So I was going mad. I was like,
तो वही हो रहा था जो हमने एक प्लान बनाया था कि
कि इंस्पिरेशन के बिना बनाते
कमरे में बंद कर दो. हाँ, continue.
So I have a dog. Her name is Ajibo. So she was like,
I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask about Ajibo. How was Ajibo?
Ajibo was fine. So we would
high five then also.
ठीक है. So I'd be like at least twice a day, 2 hours. Put on my headphone and just walk like 8 km. 6 km with my dog, and she's also loving it. I'm also loving it. And from those walks, I could get that kind of energy to come back and work. Because otherwise, just sitting there, I was just like battery's dead, you know. So I think for me, nature recharges you, and then you're able to do the things that you like. But you need to go back, like the Japs call it forest bathing. Forest bathing. It's a whole thing. Like you just go, and even like sometimes you're running in the park here, and I'm like reading. Leisure Valley. You're walking or running, and like our weather is not sustainable all the time because we have a terrible summer. But it's nice to just go and read, and like if you're reading at home, a book here versus you lying down in a park and reading, it's completely different.
Don't you get distracted?
No, I have my music. Yeah. And then spirituality and nature. Yeah, I think how you were saying, like inspiration or like ideas or something that you've come or you're thinking about, a question, like answers come to you when you're with yourself in nature, you know? Like I think it's a good place to reflect, edit your experiences.
End of the day, you have to take that step. You can't skip it.
What?
In the sense, like even during lockdown, going for a walk is asking for too much. Then you police wala na pakad le. But you have to take that step because you know you need to know the importance of that step.
Yeah, and like you have to have something to compare it to. Like if I was only in my room for 10 days and then 10 days I took a walk, like my day would be very different. The way I'm feeling, you know.
Yeah. Suddenly I'm feeling कि मैं सब कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ आजकल.
नहीं, you hear me? I mean, it's great if you're able to. For me, it's like a generator. You know, like we have a dynamo of energy. So we recharge it and then we're able to produce. Like CrossFit.
Yeah.
Recharges.
Let's just talk about CrossFit for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you think you don't have energy, right? At 6 o'clock, I have anxiety before the workout. I'm like, I'm going to die today. Pata nahi kya hone wala hai.
Same
but you
feeling.
show up.
Yeah.
And I'm like yawning. I'm like, oh, maybe I should have had a coffee.
Exactly. It happens the same with me.
Yeah. But then you're there and there you have no option. You can't solve.
There's no
you
option.
can't be like, mere ko aaj ye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai. You just show up and then you you switch off your brain, you put it there only where you leave your keys, you leave your brain also. Oh, just leave it there.
Brain hook nahi hai yahan pe?
Yeah, dimag chhod do
हाँ.
and just follow the directions. It's, what is it? 30 to whatever, 30 to 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you come to the other side and you're recharged. Actually, there's never a day where you're like, oh, I was feeling better
True.
before the class.
True.
No?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's like energy making things. Everybody has different ones. What gives you energy? Good energy.
Yeah.
And then you can be efficient in what you love doing. So CrossFit 100% saved me like hell from my mental darkness, you know, especially during Corona when everyone's going mad and work is drying up and there's general anxiety about like, what's the future going to look like?
Yeah.
Are we going to die in tomorrow? You know? So it's really positive. And I think nature also has that effect. So does trekking.
How was your trek to
It was
those 7 lakes? How many lakes were there?
There are way more than 7.
But that place, wait a minute.
Kashmir.
धुंधला धुंधला मुझे याद है, I was having a word with a person who is a mountaineer. And I asked him, I don't know who that person, मैं भूल रहा हूँ. And I asked that person कि यार आपका सबसे फेवरेट, सबसे बढ़िया जगह जहाँ आपने ट्रैक मारा हो, scenic, picturesque, कौन सी जगह है वो? And he named that place only. The place where you went.
It was too good.
Kashmir
it was like every day was like heaven and hell together. Swere utho, like it's cold. You're walking through a river like without shoes because otherwise your shoes will get wet for the rest of the day. Cold, like your brain is hurting from the cold water, and you're just like, oh my god. And then there's an incline like this, Nichnai Pass. Like for me, that was the day 2. I think the worst. The whole thing is like this, and there's only little pebbles, no seam. And then you cross and it's like green pastures downhill, all the flowers you've never seen, like blue colored flowers and like things that don't grow in obviously plains in the cities. And then there are these horses. And then again, you enjoy that.
Wild horses?
There are wild horses. There are sheep. There are marmots who are like little beaver things. Like that. Like this way. And so every day would be like you start with something hellish and then it goes downhill and you're like, wow. And again, at night you're in you're in a tent and you're freezing and it's raining above your tent. So you're like 0 degrees. The next day again, you start like, oh. And then after the sun comes out, you're like, wow. So it's nice that you're fighting with your brain essentially. Am I going to finish this? Am I going to die on this trek? Oh my God. And then you just quiet because you've never seen the scale. Like you're so small and the mountains are so pure. The air is so clean and it's just incredible. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, not a trace of humans, like heaven.
That's the perfect fade out.